Catherine Hoggle, the woman accused of killing her 2 children. Well, a judge will decide as to whether or not she's competent to stand trial. We'll get a live update from our very own Bob Barnard. Hey, have you heard about it? In this case, seen it. Talking about the new film on Tubi. Yes, it is entitled, well, I think you want to stick around for the name. What's more important is the actress right there. Yeah, she hails from the DMV, and it interviews China. Black China, that is. And we're talking all things socks. However, in this case, is it okay to wear them twice without washing them? I can't wait to hear what Tucker Barnes has to say about that. So let's find out right now. He joins us for the latest forecast.
Guy, I mean, twice?
On the live zone.
Come on, twice?
Okay, so I've done that before.
No, I was going to say, I wouldn't even consider twice to be an issue. I would go like... You're like in the 4 or 5 category. Now you're talking like, is that pushing it?
Oh, thank you, my friend. I can't wait to talk about that. But thank you. I feel a lot better now.
Is that bad?
No. I mean, we wear socks, what,
the other
2-3
issue I have
here?
is that, certain members of my family are like, you have holes in your socks. You have to get them replaced. I'm like, why? You can't see them. I'm wearing shoes.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Let's talk weather, shall we?
Maybe this gig right here doesn't pay that much. That's the other reason I don't have new stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm not like an anchor guy making a lot of money. Okay, let's do weather. The weather people are always coming up the rear. 37, winds out south at 18. So, Guy, the deal with today, a lot of cloud cover. You can see it across the region. That's Fredericksburg. Mm-hmm. And what you see is what you get this afternoon. So we'll have a lot of clouds, maybe a shower or two.
Okay.
You ready for this? I was debating with Marissa earlier today. On the set about whether or not today's probably your pick of the week.
What?
Yeah, cloud cover in mid-40s, so that's about
cold.
as good as it's going to get. As we are going to be back into a rather polar plunge kind of weekend here, especially by Sunday and Monday. Okay, there's cloud cover. Most of that rain out to the west is not touching the ground, but we'll see a few showers later this afternoon. We're not talking about anything major, but if you catch a shower, don't be shocked. Mostly north of our region. I know it looks a little ominous out to the west, but most of that will fall apart before it gets across the mountains. I do want to mention one area. If you are traveling out into our mountains out to the west, especially those higher elevations in western Maryland and West Virginia, there's a blizzard warning for later today. So there could be some heavy snows out there. For us, we'll just keep it cloudy and chilly with daytime highs in the mid-40s. But did you know that today is 15th day in a row where the temperatures have been below normal?
Wow.
Yeah, there's your fun. How's that for a fun fact?
Yeah, I sound like I'm a smart guy if I say it.
Or just a fact. Okay, cold front comes through, and guess what? We're back to windy and chilly conditions tomorrow, only about 40, but the sun will return tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, so as far as snow chances this week, maybe Friday a few flurries. If we had more than anything that was more than conversational, like, oh, I saw a flurry. I need to tell Guy and Tucker. I'd be shocked. Sunday morning has a little better chance of a light accumulation. It would mostly be right around daybreak, and it's not set in stone. But maybe we could get an inch or two. We'll have to watch that one.
All right.
Okay, but notice it's cold into next week.
Yeah.
You know what this means, don't you?
What is that?
Christmas will be like 75 because it can't be cold like this forever.
I thought maybe we'd get a white Christmas.
Well, we'll see. I mean, we're getting close.
That means you have to continue to watch Tucker Barnes.
I'm going to go change my socks. I'm out.
Tucker Barnes, all things weather and lack of socks right here. Hey, guys, if you haven't already done so, make sure you download the Fox Local app and take that forecast with you on the go. All right, some of the stories we're following for you this hour. A Montgomery County judge will decide today if a Maryland mother is competent to stand trial. Catherine Hoggle is charged with killing her 2 children more than a decade ago. Hoggle was charged first in 2014 with parental abduction and indicted for murder in 2017, but found incompetent to stand trial. She suffers from schizophrenia. In 2022, the charges were dismissed under Maryland law because Catherine had remained incompetent for 5 years. Prosecutors secured a second indictment earlier this year.
The former director of Clifton T. Perkins Hospital Center says the woman accused of murdering my babies is competent to stand trial. So we're very hopeful the court will listen to her expert opinion and we can finally get justice for my kids.
Yet again, we are expecting a judge's ruling at about 1:30. At 1 o'clock, our very own Bob Barnard will have a live report from outside of the courthouse right here on the Live Zone. And in politics, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and CIA Director John Ratcliffe briefed congressional leaders and Intel committee members on the bulk strikes in the Caribbean. Video from September showed the strike being carried out on an alleged narco group. But the Trump administration now facing new scrutiny after a report alleged that a double-tap strike was ordered by the Pentagon, killing 2 survivors of the initial strike. Joining us now to discuss this and so much more is Mr. Brian Maloney, conservative analyst back here on the Live Zone. Brian, it's always good to see you, my friend. Welcome back to the show.
It is, and I can supplement your weather forecast there. It is freezing outside right now.
Brian, I will not ask why you're standing outside, so let's get right to it because I don't want you to catch a cold.
Everywhere else is too noisy, so you wouldn't be able to hear me. I wouldn't be able to hear you, but right behind me is Pennsylvania Avenue, so, you gotta take one for the team,
Wow. All right, well, you're freezing, so let's warm things up. In this case, the first topic surrounds all things with regard to Pete Hegseth, Rubio, and Ratcliffe. You heard me make mention of it earlier. They were briefing congressional leaders and Intel committee members on the boat strikes in the Caribbean. Perhaps what's more at issue is the Trump administration facing new scrutiny over the double-tap strike that was ordered. Your thoughts, my friend?
Well, I think that, it's easy for us to play second guess or Monday morning quarterback on all of this. But the bottom line is, we're going to point fingers of blame. We need to blame the last administration that did nothing about this and let this fester and let Venezuela become a transit point for fentanyl and other drugs that are being shipped from China and all over the world. And that's how we got into this mess. And that's why that particular corner of the Caribbean has become such a hotspot for drug traffickers. And you have Maduro as the dictator of Venezuela. Essentially, he is really basically a drug lord or a cartel leader more than he's president of any sovereign state. So, we got into this mess because it was allowed to get this bad. So it's easy to second guess a boat strike, but let's talk about the whole picture here and the years that went into this and how we got here.
Yeah, evidently this will be something that we will be talking about for quite some time. So obviously we'll have to keep a close eye on this. Speaking of keeping a close eye on, this just in, a federal judge now blocking President Trump's National Guard deployment in Los Angeles. The judge also accused the Trump administration of effectively creating a national police force made up of state troops by sending California guardsmen to other states. The judge put his order on hold until Monday, likely to give the Justice Department time to appeal. Your thoughts yet again, Brian? Well,
I think from a legal standpoint, it's going to be tougher for him to send guard troops into cities that aren't part of a federal district as D.C. is, and that's where this is going to get tough legally. But from a political standpoint, which is my area, politically, it's another issue that was to fester for years, and that is, skyrocketing crime rates in large cities and administrations of mayors, city councils, county supervisors in places like LA that just sat on their hands and let crime get out of control. And that's just it. It's easy to blame Trump for wanting to do something about it, but what about those before him who didn't want to do anything about it at all? And why was that okay? So, I think, again, the fingers of blame are on the inaction that occurred in the 4 years before.
Yeah, speaking of the blame, or in this case, the finger being pointed, we know that a federal judge now pointing the finger to the Justice Department, granting the request to unseal secret grand jury transcripts from Jeffrey Epstein's 2019 sex trafficking case, saying they could be made public, Brian. Your thoughts?
Well, I think, instead of getting this gigantic release of everything as we were hoping for, and I thought would have already come by now, we're getting a drip, drip, drip instead. And the bottom line is, I don't know if any huge revelations are coming right now from any of this. So, an issue that I hope that we could put to rest, get out of our way and move on to much bigger topics that are affecting Americans. Unfortunately, this thing is still out there. It just has a life of its own and won't go away. So, to me, from that political standpoint, it's frustrating.
Well, I tell you what is also frustrating, seeing you freeze in the cold right here in the nation's capital. We'll end it there, Brian.
I'm raring to go. You get no idea.
You get the gold star today for participation. We truly appreciate you. Brian Maloney, conservative analyst, joining us right here on the Live Zone. Well, as President Trump readies to name a new head of the Federal Reserve, likely signaling the end of Jerome Powell's tenure, Finance markets now on edge. And then there's the anticipation surrounding the Fed announcing its December interest rate decision yet again at 2 p.m. today. Joining us now to discuss this and so much more is Mr. Alexander William Salter. He is a Young Voices contributor and senior fellow with the Independent Institute in Oakland, California. Sir, it's good to see you and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Well, it's no secret. While headlines are now focusing on Powell's likely exit, in the political drama, let's just keep it real, Alexander. I would argue that the danger, and so many other folks would argue this as well, but it really lies deeper. A monetary system masking structural fractures that no rate adjustment can fix. I would venture to say you probably agree.
You do have to worry that central bankers are putting too much stock in their ability to affect short-term interest rates. A tweak here, a nudge there. We're going to try and get the capital market to work the way that we want it to work. But as you noted, there are deep economic forces at work here. Most importantly, what's going on with the money supply, what's going on with broader measures of liquidity, and the fact that right now both inflation and unemployment are going up. That's going to be really tough for monetary policymakers to manage if all they think that they're doing is tweaking interest rates.
A number of folks have also stated you learn by your mistakes and or you learn by example. And in this case, what's your opinion on why does a December rate cut risk repeating the policy failures of not only 2008, but 2020?
I think more 2020 than 2008. Look, monetary policymakers are in a tough spot right now because, as I previously mentioned, both of the things that they have to care about, the unemployment rate and the inflation rate, are trending in not good directions. So it seems like they're going to get in trouble no matter what they do. If they try and stimulate the economy, that might help with unemployment, but then you have a problem with inflation. If you go the other way, you might be able to slow price growth, but you've got to worry that's going to also slow down the rate at which labor markets are able to put people to work. And I, for one, am worried that they're just overlooking the lessons that we've learned in the two previous crises and are putting too much stock in what the interest rate is. We need to be looking at broader structural economic forces to help us make this policy make sense.
Let's talk illusions, in this case, the illusion of control inside the Fed and why it leaves the economy, well, a lot of folks would say exposed.
At the end of the day, interest rates come down to the supply of and demand for capital. The Fed is a big player in that market, make no mistake, but they're still just one player. We're talking about globally linked markets. Trillions of dollars change hands in these markets every day. And the idea that the Fed can, quote unquote, set interest rates makes no more sense than a meteorologist saying that he or she can set the weather. I think a lot of times the central bank is a follower rather than a leader of these trends. And that illusion of control that you mentioned can be a very dangerous thing to have for policymakers. They think they're in the driver's seat, but in fact, they're riding passenger.
All right, we'll end with this, and that happens to surround all things with regard to the new Fed appointment. I'm really curious to get your take on what this could mean for inflation, lending, and overall growth.
Yeah, there's a big discussion right now about who exactly it's going to be. The smart money seems to think it's going to be Kevin Hassett. There's a lot to like there in terms of his previous policy views on the importance of private property rights and free enterprise, sound rule-based monetary policy. There's a lot there that I like. At the same time, you also have to worry that the president is trying very hard to put his stamp on the Federal Reserve and appoint decision makers who are going to give him the kind of monetary policy that he wants. And what's good for the president's political prospects may not be best for what's best for the nation in the long run. And so that divergence of incentives is something that we're going to have to watch pretty carefully.
Well said. Yet again, we are expecting the Fed to announce its December interest rate decision at 2 p.m. later today. We have been speaking with Alexander William Salter, a Young Voices contributor and senior fellow with the Independent Institute in Oakland, California. Truly appreciate your time, my friend.
Thank you.
So it's a lot to say that when the House Speaker speaks, all eyes happen to be on him. In this case, we know that Mike Johnson was flanked by several GOP leaders earlier today as he spoke with reporters following a closed-door meeting. What was discussed? Well, here is some of what he had to say.
Now he will be representing the folks of Nashville and 14 counties here, and we've added him to his committees this morning formally and officially, so he is hit the ground running. There is a lot going on here We wanted to talk with you about some of those things this morning, and I'm so grateful for this leadership team for giving you the report so far, and for Representative Kiggins, who is an extraordinary member of Congress, as you know, a decorated veteran and somebody who's so committed to our nation's defense and our military servicemen and women, and her expertise and all these things has been so greatly appreciated. We're glad to have her this morning. Now, look, we've had one of the most consequential, most productive, most successful Congresses in the history of this institution, the 119th Congress. In spite of those small margins, the Republican majority has been working in lockstep with the Republican majority in the Senate, even though that one's small as well, and of course with our strong Republican president and his administration. And the results of that cannot be questioned. And I see this false narrative right now, oh, they haven't done enough. Oh, pray tell. Listen, the Working Families Tax Cut, the big, beautiful bill, took about 6 months of the first part of this Congress to put together because it was so consequential and so comprehensive. And there are so many things in that bill that our members are going to be so excited to go and run on and talk about in the upcoming election cycle, because we inherited an absolute disaster from the Biden administration. Virtually every area of public policy was decimated, and we had to rebuild from the ground up in many of these places and make all sorts of changes and reforms to get America back again. And we did, and we put it all in this one landmark piece of legislation that will have consequences for generations, and it will be seen and written by history to be one of the biggest things that the Congress has ever achieved. And among those things was an approach to beginning this affordability agenda, because remember, we inherited massive inflation from the previous administration. It's no secret affordability is a flashpoint, right, in recent weeks, and we had 4 catastrophic years of Bidenomics that we inherited. The Biden administration spent like drunken sailors, and they attempted to tax and regulate their way to prosperity, and we all knew when they were doing it that it would not work. It had exactly the opposite effect. The result was inflation skyrocketed, gas prices reached record highs, homeownership declined, credit card debt increased, all those things that everybody felt and they're still feeling now. Now, the American people gave us a mandate in the election. The president won the Electoral College soundly. He won a big majority popular vote. We got the highest vote total for House Republicans in the history of this institution, and they charged us to go fix this. We began that process with the big, beautiful bill, and we have never let up on the accelerator. We keep it going day by day, week by week, notching away at this, trying to fix everything that the previous team broke. And now I wish we could flip a switch right after the election and make it all go away, make it all right. But you know that's not how the economy works. It takes some time to implement new policies and root out the bad things, and that's what's happening. It is a fact that the Biden administration and their Democrat enablers in Congress, we cannot forget, wrecked the U.S. economy. That's what happened, and we had to take it over in January. This is why Democrats' newfound claims about affordability are just patently absurd. Okay, here are the facts, and you know this. Many of you don't write about it, but these are the facts, and they're undisputed. They broke the economy, and now they want to lecture to the American people about affordability. They opened our borders, and now they want to lecture to the American people about immigration border enforcement. They broke the American healthcare system. They caused premiums to skyrocket. And now they have the audacity to tell Republicans that the only way to save it is to throw hundreds of billions of dollars to health insurance companies, which would merely fuel a system that is rife with fraud, waste, and abuse. You cannot be an arsonist and a firefighter at the same time. That's the message for the Democrats. Let's be very clear about one thing. When the Democrats talk about health care affordability, okay, this catchphrase that they are talking about one thing and one thing only. They are talking about continuing handouts to big insurance companies. They have no ideas, they have no desire to fix the broken system they created. They just want to subsidize it. And subsidy is a big word. It means they're taking taxpayer dollars and funding a broken system. That is their entire affordability agenda in a nutshell. This agenda does not lower health care costs. All it does is hide the cost of the failed law, which we assume is the point. And their proposal, which is a 3-year extension of these enhanced subsidies, the Democrat COVID subsidies that they created, that they put the expiration date on for this December, that proposal to extend that for 3 years is devoid of any reforms to clamp down on the rampant waste, fraud, and abuse, and it continues to provide taxpayer-subsidized health care to Americans who are making hundreds of thousands of dollars in annual salary. It doesn't make any sense. Now, you heard Whip Emmer and Leader Scalise reference the massive fraud that's just been uncovered in the last week or so in Minnesota. We know that this has been going on around the country in these deep blue states, and now the evidence is starting to come forward. It's staggering. It should upset, it should anger every American that this is where their dollars are being wasted and abused. A new report by the Government Accountability Office, which I haven't seen too much written about yet, you should look into that. It is an eye-opener as well. It makes clear why it would be a dereliction of duty to just extend subsidies without massive reforms to them, okay? Over the last 2 years, this is investigators at the Government Accountability Office, okay? They submitted 24 fraudulent applications for the ACA subsidies, the Unaffordable Care Act subsidies, Obamacare, okay? Of the 24 fraudulent applications that they created intentionally to just see what would happen, 23 of them were approved. These applications were completely fraudulent. The investigators did not submit any Social Security numbers, citizenship documentation, or reported income documents. And 23 of the 24 applications were still approved. 18 of those, by the way, are still receiving coverages they were as of September of this year. That means the Obamacare exchange and insurers didn't verify any of the information that they were supposed to under the law, and they proceeded to pay tens of thousands of dollars to insurance companies for people who do not exist, okay? The GAO report also found that 29,000 Social Security numbers in 2023 and 68,000 in 2024 were used to receive more than 1 year's worth of insurance coverage. In other words, multiple people were utilizing the same Social Security numbers to openly defraud the American taxpayers. The GAO also found that more than $94 million was sent to insurers on behalf of dead people, okay? This is the system that Democrats in Congress want to extend without reform. It's unbelievable. Listen, these are undisputed facts. The Democrats broke America's health care system when they gave us the Unaffordable Care Act, Obamacare, 15 years ago. Remember all the promises? Some of y'all were here. The average premium and the average family is going to go down to $2,500 a year. You're going to be able to keep your doctor. You're going to love this system. None of that was true. In fact, it's the opposite. And premiums have risen because they broke the system dramatically over that time. In some areas, as much as 70%, in some over 90%. And those things are still on a trajectory to rise further. Now, what are we going to do about that? The Democrats had a chance to vote to make life more affordable earlier this year in the Working Families Tax Cut, the big, beautiful bill, and they blew it. The House version of the bill, you may remember, included cost-sharing reductions. We passed that out of the House, we sent it to the Senate, and what that would have done is would have lowered premiums for the average American family by over 12%. Democrats fought to strip that out of the bill. Every American watching today should remember that.
Yet again, you've been watching House Speaker Mike Johnson discuss all things surrounding health care affordability, or as many would say, the lack thereof. At issue, will the Democrats and Republicans play nice and come to an agreement in order to avoid another government shutdown? We'll continue to monitor that and so much more. Hey, coming up on the show, making Wall Street easier to understand. Author Mark Byrne will join us, and we're discussing all things music, but not with just anyone, with the one and only Kirk Whalum. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back. All right, folks, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Time for our Wednesday Talkers with looky here. Look who just walked in. You get a chance to see her over the weekend on, is it Live Zone Weekends? Is that what we call it?
I think people called it by accident. It's a super new show. It's called Fox 5 Weekend Live.
Okay.
It's not Live Zone.
I guess I should know that. Shame on me.
It's okay. I didn't steal your name, I promise.
It's not mine. It's everyone's.
Yes.
And, well, if you do it, it makes it even better. Saida Abbas joining us right here on the LZ. We're talking about a number of things, Saida,
Yes.
and I really cannot wait to get your opinion about this. Let's start it off with the top 10 life decisions people stress out over the most. I found this to be really interesting. Coming in at number 8, getting married. Quite honestly, I thought that would be near the top of the list. Let's jump down to number 6, which is buying a home. Number 4, learning how to drive a car for the first time. For me, that was a headache because I learned via stick, meaning a manual thing. I don't even think they exist anymore. Number 3, investing your hard-earned money, especially when the deal sounds too good to be true. Number 2, quitting a job and taking the top spot. Numero uno, accepting a new job. So what do you say about all of that, Saida?
I'm really shocked by the driving a car because I feel like that wouldn't be as stressful. A lot of us do that when we're teenagers, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think so. But I think that's what they're saying. It's really stressful the first
kids,
time
yeah.
you do it. And then for me, okay, I mean, you know, full disclosure, I don't think I passed the first time I took my driver's ed test. Okay, cool. I'm not alone. It was that whole parallel parking thing. Yeah,
Oh
it's
my
like
God.
the hardest.
Did you have a camera you could look at?
Oh my gosh, are you kidding? So you know how old I am. Well,
They
maybe
didn't
you don't,
allow
but
me. They just put their hand on it. I was like, okay, I see what you're doing.
yeah, that didn't
Fail.
exist in my time. But yet again, getting married, I'm so surprised. That's number 8. I mean, that's a life-changing decision.
I mean, people do stress over it because don't you feel that pressure from like society where it's like, get it done, you should get married. So I guess I see it that way.
Yeah, and then I guess furthermore, you know, if you're marrying someone, you probably know them very, very, very well. So what's there to be nervous about other than the wedding just not going the way you want it?
Exactly. The flowers, the music. I get that. Yeah, that's stressful.
So Tucker Barnes and I had this conversation earlier, and it happens to surround all things socks. According to a newly released study, well, apparently it's not a good thing to wear them more than once without washing them. Now, here's the thing about this, Saida. I didn't think this was a big deal, but apparently a lot of folks do this a lot, myself included. And so researchers decided to conduct a study, and they found that most foot bacteria and fungi prefer to live in the warm, moist areas between your toes, where they dine on nutrients with your sweat and dead skin cells. As a result, even if you wear the socks one time, well, perhaps they need to be washed before you wear them again. I will say it one more time. I am guilty as charged. What say you about all of this?
It depends. So if you're wearing the socks and you do a heavy workout, you're running, you're sweating, you know, you're drenched in sweat after the workout, and then you wear them again, I think that's questionable. But I think if you wore them like once for like 3 hours and wear them a second time, I don't think that's a big deal.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Come on, guys. We've all done it.
Yeah, it's just so funny to me, but at the same time, I get it. I mean, Tucker said he would wear them 5, 6 times before you wash. Now,
I think he's joking.
Okay, I hope so.
I hope so.
I gotta have a talk with his wife, Caitlin. That is, wow. I'm curious to find out what producer Joey happens to do with regard to his socks.
I don't think you'd like my answer. No, I'm normal with regards to, as normal as a 23-year-old guy is with wearing socks over and over and over and over and over.
Okay, so 10 times.
I mean, look. I mean, the economy and it's, you know, it's all right. Australia. Let's talk about that instead. They have banned social media for kids under 16. Starting today, they no longer have access. Australia passed this online safety amendment bill last year with the goal of protecting children from the harmful effects of social media use. It's unclear how companies themselves will enforce the restrictions because it's up to them. Experts say social media has caused a mental health crisis among children. And yes, I think if America did this when I was 16, I would be in like Harvard Law or something right now. Or
Yeah.
just, you know.
Well, no, that would stink. Then you wouldn't be here with us.
I know, yeah. Thank you, social media. I'm glad.
What are you thinking about this, Saida?
So the ages are 16 and under, right?
Yeah.
I think it's good. I think that there's so much on social media now that really impacts young people, young women, and they compare, then they contrast, and I have to be like this. I think it might be good for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they have to read all those comments that are inappropriate too.
That is true, but doesn't that prepare you for life? Meaning, it's the real deal. Life is not easy, and so you will be faced with adversity, you know, when you become an adult. So what, you turn 16 or 17 and now you could deal with it? I would think you would perhaps want practice or to deal with something like that very similar. Before,
I know what you're saying.
You know?
I think like Australia took a completely like intense approach. I think here there should be more like parental controls and more things like that. Where I think something Meghan Markle mentioned, that social media was created and it's just like inventing a car, that you have to then think of other things, because people just get on there and they just say whatever they want to children, women, anyone. And I think now we need not officers, but I do think we need more discretion and more policing when it comes to what people can say, because you can't harass people. And now it's, so I think that for children there has to be some level of discretion, not a complete ban.
Wow, I guess she set me straight. I guess it is what it is, and we'll just have to wait and see if America happens to follow suit.
We'll see.
Saeed Abbas joining us. By the way, anything should we expect this upcoming weekend on your show?
Of course, we are completely live on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Fox 5 Weekend Live, you can watch it on the weekend, your Fox Local app, and we have a lot of great guests coming up, speaking about many different things, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, can't wait to check it out. Once again, thank you, with an assist by producer Joey.
Shout out to Joey.
Right here.
A nice sweater, by the way.
Oh yeah, you got the sweater. Go ahead and do that again.
I just noticed that. Oh,
We
look at
emailed
that.
each other.
Just don't wear it twice without washing it.
I don't know.
We'll take a quick break, guys. We'll be right back. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. With video games at the top of kids' holiday wish list, the ESA just released new data showing that, get this, 3 in 5 kids not only want games, they want parents to play with them. But what do families need to keep in mind when it comes to screen time and parental controls? Joining us to discuss just that and so much more is Aubrey Quinn, Senior Vice President at the Entertainment Software Association, back here on the Live Zone. Happy holidays, Aubrey. Good to see you again.
Hey, Guy. It's always good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, but of course, and what a great day to chit-chat about this on, out of all days, Cyber Monday, when I'm sure a lot of parents are logging on, well, heck, kids too, logging on and purchasing video games. So the latest stats, do tell.
Yes. So this year we asked kids what do you want for Christmas? What holiday gifts are you hoping to get? And we learned that nearly 3 in 5, over 50%, plan to ask for video games this year, putting it in the top 3, right behind money and gift cards and clothes and accessories. So video games remain as popular as ever.
You know, I'm not surprised. It's just that as old as I am now, it just seems like it would have changed by now. And we're talking over 25 years.
You know, one of my favorite things to remind parents is that video games are a form of entertainment. And just like we don't grow out of loving music and books and watching TV shows and movies, our tastes may change, they certainly mature, but we don't grow out of video games. We don't grow out of having fun. And my favorite statistic from this year's research is we asked kids if they wish their parents played more video games with them. And overwhelmingly, kids say yes. For the youngest kids we talked to, so ages 5 to 7, 3 and 4, 73%, say they want more game time with mom and dad. But what was amazing to me is even teenagers, at the lowest percentage, is still 50% of teenagers wish their parents would sit down and play video games with them. So screen time doesn't have to be solo time. Parents who are anxious and hungry to have more time with their kids, pick up a controller, sit down, ask them what they're playing, ask them what they like about the game, get in there and learn how to play it. Not only does it give you family time, but it's also really what your kids want this year.
Yeah, this is just so cool. I'm thinking back to when I happened to be a kid and playing video games with my dad. And I remember my big game would be either Madden. You and I have discussed that before.
I love Madden.
Love Madden. Or Mortal Kombat. And here's why, Aubrey, because they didn't really, or my dad didn't really play a lot. I did. So guess what? I would always kick his butt.
Yeah, you got to win. You know, and that I think is so true. I'm a mom of 3, and my kids love showing off, right? They like to show me what they're building. They like to show me how good they are at the games. I get to learn something new. Video games are something kids really love to play. They're such an engaging and honestly positive form of screen time that rather than doom scrolling on a phone or, you know, sitting down and jumping from video to video to video on a social channel, the kids are using their brains. They're learning cooperation. They're learning strategy. You know, one of my favorite studies says that kids who play video games are better readers than their peers who don't, because there's so much reading involved with video games and conversations. And so if you are, you know, looking for ways to spend time with your kids this holiday season, video games are a really fun and beneficial way to get that quality time as a family.
Yeah, how times have changed. I could speak to my day, excuse me, or back in the day, when it was really frowned upon. You know, no, you're not going to play video games. You go outside and play, but, well, going outside to play, that's really become no longer a thing of the norm, and perhaps most folks are now hopping on a video game and doing just that, playing with mom and dad. I'm curious, Aubrey, what about the game system, the console, if you will? Any particular game system that's standing out above all the others right now?
So new this year is the Nintendo Switch 2. So it's the only new console on the market, but Microsoft also just released their Allies, so Microsoft's handheld. And if you have a Microsoft game or you have the Game Pass through your Xbox, the Xbox Ally is a great way to take that video game everywhere. You know, we asked kids, what are they hoping to get when they said they wanted video games? A video game console is second place, 39%. So if you don't have the PlayStation, you don't have an Xbox, you don't have a Switch 2, this is a good year to get it for your family. But, you know, one of the things I love about modern video gaming is that you don't need a console, which makes games more accessible to more families at different price points. More and more games are free to play. So if you already have a family PC, or if you have a tablet or a smartphone, you can load video games right onto those for pretty, you know, limited price or low price, or even, you know, like I said, free to play. And kids can play video games with their friends in a way that when you and I were growing up certainly wasn't an option. You had to have the console, you had to have the cartridge game. But video games are more affordable and more accessible than ever.
Gosh, it's really changed. Never in a million years did I think I would say video games are cool, and it contributes to family bonding in the same sentence. But that has now happened.
Well, it's true. And as you said, you had memories of playing games with your dad. So I do as well. My family used to gather around a PC or our Nintendo or our original Sega Genesis, and we would play games and take turns passing, the controller around when someone else loses a life. And it was a really, really fun memory for me. And I am so grateful that I get to play games with my kids, whether it's Mario Kart or It Takes Two or Split Fiction or Astrobot or whatever it may be. I know that I am planning on spending a lot of my holiday playing games with my kids. And because I have a 12-year-old daughter, but also a 21-year-old son, video games are really cross-generational. So even if grandma and grandpa are in town, you can pull up a controller, ask them to sit down, and they can get in on the fun as well.
Good stuff. Absolutely love it. I got to make sure I follow suit as well. We've been speaking with Aubrey Quinn, Senior Vice President at Entertainment Software Association, joining us on this Cyber Monday right here on the Live Zone. It's always good to speak with you, Aubrey. Make it a great day.
Always. Happy holidays.
Same to you. All right. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Well, my next guest really needs no introduction. You see his name right there. Yes, I'm talking about American R&B and smooth jazz saxophonist and songwriter. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Grammy Award winner, Kirk Whalum, joining us right here on the Live Zone. Good to see you, my friend, and welcome to the show.
Man, thank you so much. I want to make note that I do have my seatbelt on. I'm out here in LA. Headed down to Irvine, so I'm making a statement, safety first and all of that.
Oh, and you do it all so well. You are all things cool and all things safety. The proof is in the pudding with the seatbelt on. I am so glad to have you here. By the way, you are performing at Bethesda Theater this upcoming Friday, December the 12th at 8:30. But before we jump into that, Kirk, it is an honor to speak to a man who has worked with Whitney Houston, Luther, and from D.C. you got to put an F on it, so you can't say T-H, you say Luther. Quincy Jones, Barbra Streisand, I could just go on and on, but to think that in actuality they had the honor of working with you, what does that mean to you, sir?
Oh man, it really is kind of hard to believe. In fact, being out here, and thank my wife for driving. Thank you, baby. We're headed to a gig out here in Irvine, but on the freeway here, starting out up in Burbank, and just riding through the neighborhoods we used to live out here, and raising kids. And yes, during that time, I played on a ton of recording sessions, including Barbra Streisand and Luther, and obviously Whitney. So many records. but I was on and off these freeways going to the studio and taking kids to, ballet. So it's always such a, surreal. We live back in Memphis now, and I love spending time in Bethesda and Baltimore and DC. My life is crazy, man.
Yeah, well, not only is it crazy, it is something that so many would mimic what you do and would pay any and every amount in order to do that if they had the opportunity to do so. One of the interesting things about your life, sir, that I absolutely love is that the first instrument you ever played, and correct me if I'm wrong, happened to be the drums. It wasn't even the saxophone.
That's right. I think every boy, especially back then, you want to play hit on something, bang stuff. And so, yeah, it was about the drums. I couldn't get them to get me a whole set because I don't think they believed that I was committed to it. So they gave me a snare drum for Christmas from Sears. And so eventually I got that saxophone when I was 12, and I was fortunate to hear somebody up close and personal who was a professional saxophonist. And that absolutely changed everything. And that was my uncle Peanuts Whalum. And he's a guy who played with Nat King Cole and a lot of great artists. Just to mention that my family is insanely musical. My son plays with Katy Perry. In fact, right now he's coming back from Abu Dhabi. We heard him in Paris at the same venue, by the way, that I played with Whitney Houston 32 years ago. So, that's the kind of craziness that the musical, legacy, my family, and quickly, my nephew Kenneth Whalum plays the DC area all the time. Kenneth Whalum is an amazing saxophonist, singer-songwriter. And my nephew Cameron plays with Bruno Mars. So you see Whalums all over the freaking place.
Man, yeah, let's just say the Whalums took over the world. And then you could just drop the mic, or in your case, drop the saxophone on that. You made mention of playing with Whitney Houston. And unless you're crawling from under a rock, I don't know if folks know that you were a part of the song, I Will Always Love You. I would argue that is perhaps her biggest song ever. And you were a part of that. Can you just very briefly tell me about that studio session?
Of course. Well, first of all, I can say to you today, Marilyn, that you're talking to this guy in the car with seatbelt on the freeway in LA, the guy who played the sax solo who's been heard by more people than any other sax solo in history. And that includes all my mentors, Coltrane and all of that, right? So it's insane for me. But the fact is, it wasn't a recording studio. It wasn't, in some on some film lot or whatever. We literally recorded it right there when they were making the movie there at that hotel ballroom in Florida. Yes, we were making a record, much to the chagrin of the directors of the movie. They're like, "No, Whitney, no, please don't make us do this." She's like, "No, hear me. I'm going to make this song recorded on the set of the film." They went nuts, man. But guess what? She said, "Make it happen."
Wow, that's only a story that you could get right here. I mean, that is an unbelievable story and something that I'll never forget. Speaking of never forget, and we'll end with this, let's talk about your upcoming performance yet again at Bethesda Theater this upcoming Friday, beginning at 8:30. What is it for you that keeps you coming back to the stage, and in this case, the amazing venue at Bethesda Theater?
Oh, I love playing Bethesda. That theater I have a lot of history with that theater. And, normally we come back around Christmas time. And I love Christmas. I love Jesus. And this is an opportunity for me to share my faith and also just to share, man, we celebrate everything on this concert. Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, we're like here to celebrate with the people who come to hear me play. And I have an amazing band, and we always connect in a certain way with that audience there. I think maybe because of the greats like Grover Washington and so many who spent so much time, paving the way for us in that part of the world, that we just love coming.
Wow. Yet again, I cannot wait. This upcoming Friday, beginning at 8:30 at Bethesda Theater. Folks, if you haven't already gotten your tickets, we encourage you to do so. You made my day, my friend. Yet again, Grammy Award winner. Nominated not once, not twice, but count them, 12 times. I might have even got that number wrong. It's probably more than that. The one and only.
That's correct. That's correct.
Is it correct? Oh, I did my research. Yet again, Mr. Kirk Whalum, the one and only, joining us right here on the Live Zone. We'll see you on Friday. Thank you so much.
Good to see you, man. Happy holidays.
All right, folks, we'll take a quick break. Hey, on the flip side of that break, still more to come surrounding Brian Walsh. He's the man accused of killing his wife and dismembering her. That trial continues. And speaking of trials, we'll take you to Montgomery County, where Catherine Hoggle, the woman accused of killing her 2 kids, well, is she competent to stand trial? We'll get a live report from our very own Bob Barnard coming up at 1 o'clock right here on the Live Zone. We'll be right back.
Thank you, Ms. Gilman.
All right, folks, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone, going to take you now to Massachusetts. That's where the trial surrounding Brian Walsh continues, the murder trial at that. He's accused of murdering his wife, Anna Walsh, who worked right here in the nation's capital, and then dismembering her body. Let's take a live look at.
Looking at the top of it, sir, what is the address of the store?
1149 Hingham Street, Rockland, Massachusetts.
And what is the significance of Register 3?
Register 3 is the register number that was shown in the video where those purchases were made.
And Ms. Gilman, could we scroll down to the bottom? Actually, stay right there, Ms. Gilman. Sir, on A&H baking soda, what is that?
That is a 12-pound bag of baking soda. It was the one that was on the bottom of the cart.
Home Depot sells 12 pounds of baking soda?
Yes.
And then what is the date and the time of the transaction?
The date is 1/2 of 2023 at 5:01 and 47 seconds p.m.
What was the amount for the transaction?
The amount was $453.54.
And was it cash or charge?
Cash.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Any cross? The witness may step down.
Thank you.
Commonwealth may call its next witness.
Thank you. Commonwealth would call Callie Roy Paleologos.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give in the cause now in hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. You can be seated.
Take your time, just watch your step, okay?
Thank you,
Chair a
sir.
little closer. Just do me a favor, just keep your voice up when you speak, okay? Thank you.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Could you bring that microphone a little bit closer to you? It will help keep things loud.
Is that better?
Much better. Could you state your name and spell your first and last name for us?
Kaliroy Paleologos, Kaliroi, last name PalaIologos.
Where do you work, ma'am?
I work at Beacon Communities, more specifically Chatham West and the Pines.
And what is Chatham West?
It's a housing residential apartment complex.
Where is Chatham West located?
Brockton, Massachusetts.
And what do you do there?
I'm a property manager.
And as the property manager, do you have access to their surveillance videos?
Yes, sir, I do.
And as far as the surveillance videos, how many cameras do they have on the exterior of their building?
Approximately 25 back in 23.
In January of 2023, how many units were at Chatham West?
507.
507?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really large
Yes,
complex. What does Chatham West have for dumpsters in January 2023?
About 21 dumpsters.
And what access does the general public have to the dumpsters in January 2023?
They're open to the public.
Okay. Now, in January 2023, did you have the opportunity to produce surveillance videos to law enforcement?
Yes, I did.
And have you had the opportunity to review them prior to today?
Yes.
Have they been edited in any fashion?
No, sir.
And Chatham West, when they maintain their surveillance videos, done the normal course of business?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Sure. Do you maintain your surveillance videos in the normal course of business?
Yes, I do.
And in good faith?
Yes.
And again, you turn these over to law enforcement in January 2023?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Ma'am, I'm showing you a thumb drive. Do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
Does it have your initials on it?
Yes, it does.
Does this have the video that you reviewed that had you previously turned over to law enforcement?
Yes, it does.
The Commonwealth would seek to have the video from Chatham West on the thumb drive marked as the next exhibit.
No objection. It will be marked and admitted into evidence now as 262.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, may the Commonwealth publish the video from Chatham West?
You may.
Thank you. Pause. Thank you, Ms. Gilman.
Yet again, day 8 of the Brian Walsh trial. This taking place in Massachusetts. He is accused of killing and dismembering his wife, Anna Walsh. She worked right here in the nation's capital. We'll continue to monitor that court case. And speaking of court cases, coming up next, a Montgomery County judge will announce as to whether or not a Maryland mom is competent to stand trial. I'm referring to Catherine Hoggle. Our very own Bob Barnard will join us live from outside of the Montgomery County Courthouse next, right here on the Live Zone. We'll be right back. All right, folks, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. In just about half an hour, a Montgomery County, Maryland judge will announce whether a Maryland mom is competent to stand trial for the murder in 2014 and the disappearance of her 2 young children. Catherine Hoggle was the last person to be seen with her children, 3-year-old Sarah and 2-year-old Jacob. Hoggle has a long history of mental health issues, including schizophrenia, and has been found incompetent to stand trial consistently since 2015. Our very own Bob Barnard is now live outside of the Montgomery County Courthouse with the latest. Bob, what can you tell us?
Well, Guy, that hearing that was supposed to start at 1:30 has now been pushed to 2 o'clock. So Judge James Bonifant here at Circuit Court in Montgomery County will convene all parties and reporters as well into the courtroom here. And at 2 o'clock, he will make a determination based on evidence and testimony from the past 2 days, Monday and Tuesday, at a competency hearing that he ordered after Catherine was arrested this past summer and charged once again with the murders of her 2 children, as you mentioned, Sarah and Jacob. She had originally been charged with their disappearance and then charged with their murder back in 2017. But because, as you mentioned, she's been deemed by medical professionals all this time for the past 11 years because of her schizophrenia to be not competent to aid in her defense at a trial. Those initial murder charges placed in 2017 because of Maryland law had to be lifted back in 2022. But apparently, when that happened, Catherine, according to one of the expert forensic psychiatrists who testified over the past 2 days, when those murder charges were lifted, dismissed back in 2022, that doctor says Catherine's mental health, without that pressure hanging over her, improved to the point where this summer she was released from the state mental hospital, the psychiatric hospital up in Jessup, Maryland, to a halfway house out on the Eastern Shore. And when Montgomery County police and prosecutors learned that she's well enough to be released from the state hospital and placed out into the community with no restrictions, they filed the new murder charges against her again. But the judge said, look, before she can go on trial, we need to evaluate her mental capacity to aid in her defense. So there was this 2-day competency hearing. The forensic psychiatrist that was appointed by the court says Catherine is still suffering from psychosis and delusions and improper thinking and really is not well enough to stand trial. However, Montgomery County prosecutors, the team led by John McCarthy, the state's attorney, they had their own forensic psychiatrist who used to be the director of Perkins, who said no. In her interviews with Catherine, she seems fine now. That same doctor had interviewed her back in 2019 and said she was not well then, but she is now. And Guy, prosecutors also played a number of recorded phone calls from the Montgomery County Jail after Catherine was arrested this summer. Hundreds of phone calls between Catherine and her mother, Catherine and her father. The prosecutors played snippets of those and had their expert witness say, look, Catherine seems fine. She's planning her defense. Should I get a public defender? You know, I want to protest ahead of this competency hearing to kind of show that, you know, I'm a decent person or what have you. I mean, she's kind of like able to navigate the legal predicament she's in.
Sure.
And then there were a whole bunch of text messages, literally 10,000 text messages between Catherine and her mother, Catherine and the wife of the missing children's father. And in that, the prosecution was saying, look, you can just read Catherine's text. She seems of sound mind, and she should be deemed competent and put on trial. And for once, after 11 years, you know, face a judge, a jury, be put on the spot for the murders of her 2 children, the disappearance and likely murders of her 2 children. We'll find out in just under an hour what Judge James Bonifant thinks of all this. It's a lot out there. Everybody admits it's a complex, complicated case, but it has dragged on for more than a decade. And so it's going to be interesting how it goes.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of people upset if the judge says she's still incompetent, not ready to stand trial, even though by all appearances it appears she's in a good place now, better than she's been in the past 11 years. Or, yes, she's ready to go to trial, and there's going to be a lot of people very happy here. Prosecutors, Troy Turner, the missing children's father, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
You know, it's tough to read. Consistently, Guy, judges have said she is incompetent to stand trial, but having sat in the courtroom these past 2 days, I'm no expert, medical, legal, or otherwise, but from what I heard, it sure seems like Catherine Hoggle is in a good place to aid in her defense and face these murder charges. The important thing is we'll have to see what the judge thinks.
Really interesting. Real quick, Bob, you made mention of Troy Turner, the children's father. I'm curious, have you seen him today as yet? And if so, could you describe his demeanor?
No, I haven't seen him today. I chatted with him Monday. We saw him and sat with him in the courtroom for a little bit yesterday, and he spoke to reporters, kind of read a statement, said he'll be more free one way or the other today to speak and answer questions. He is seemed as he has all along. He's steady Eddie, but he's passionate about finding out what happened to his children, and he wants Catherine to face these murder charges in court, and has all along believed she's faking it, and you know, he should be put on trial. And so I won't say he's anxious. The word he used yesterday was hopeful, based on the testimony and the evidence that he saw and heard and was able to read in court yesterday.
And yet again, we expect that hearing to get underway beginning at 2 p.m. Bob Barnard, great
That's
work
right.
as always outside of the Montgomery County Courthouse right here on the Live Zone. We'll take a quick
Thanks,
break.
Guy.
We'll be right back.
You never saw the call sheet that day?
I'm not a producer.
We were best friends for about 14 years.
And sometimes what we think or what we remember isn't the full truth.
I will accept that because I believe that you're a God-fearing woman who would not lie.
You gotta bring God into this. You can just ask me.
It was on the call sheet.
They never liked me, Treasure. They never liked me.
I do not know why it has been an issue publicly with your mom.
I'm the mama. We're gonna leave it at that.
Now that's what I call a trailer. You're watching Hood to Hollywood, now airing on Tubi, starring this amazing woman, Treasure Thompson. Of course, all things on sisterhood, stardom, and sitting down with Angela White, or as many of we know as Black China. Treasure, it is such an honor to have you on the show. Congratulations and welcome home, if you will.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
But of course, so I have so many questions and so little time, girl. And so let me just jump right into it. For those of you who really don't know, the history behind, well, let's say your relationship, and I guess I need to call her Angela because I guess the name Black China no longer exists. But I want you to start from the beginning and how that relationship flourished, if you will, and what caused it, I guess what many would argue to, well, let's say, take a sour turn.
Well, yes. It began years ago right here in the DMV. We are both DC girls. Originally, we became friends in our earlier years as entertainers. Everyone knows that if you are aware of who we are and you followed us through our journey for so many years. And we actually met in the club. We almost instantaneously became friends. And after we became friends, we, I guess, took off in popularity. We kind of started traveling. We started getting bookings here in the DMV. We were hosting clubs. We were going to different cities, just, you know, being us, showing our energy and traveling, different things like that. So in the midst of all of that, China, at the time, she ended up meeting a rapper. She ended up having my godson, King, and she ended up moving from Miami to LA. In the midst of all of that, a whole lot more things happened. She ended up having a baby with Rob Kardashian. And after she got pregnant with that baby, she had a show, which I was on. It was called Rob and China, which was on E! And then a couple of years later, she had another show, which was called The Real Black China, which is another show that I was on. And that is the show where we had a public falling out or a public dispute. In the show that I just produced, it's out on Tubi right now, you're going to be able to see or hear exactly how we healed from this. So we really just wanted to take time to show people that sometimes time is all that you really need to heal. And we both grew in different directions. We had a whole lot going on in our lives. And I'm just happy that it came full circle for us to be able to link up with each other and display healing for the world.
Yeah.
You know, everyone always just is on fighting and drama. We want to show something different.
Treasure, I got two questions real quick. One, you got to tell me the club, the initial club that you all met in right here in the Nations. I got to know, and I think our viewers want to know as well, because it's history, if you will.
It's history. It's history. It is sensational. It's called the Garage.
Wow.
If you're from the area, it's a gentleman's club that is in Lanham, Maryland. I'm not sure if they're still open now, but back in the early 2000s, that's where we were.
Yeah. And Treasure, at what point did you decide to pick up the phone, or did she pick up the phone in order to really reconcile, if you will, to fix that relationship, to mend that relationship and bring it back to what it once was?
I'm gonna give her the credit. She definitely, we had a mutual friend who connected us initially, and she spoke with our mutual friend who relayed a message to me, and then she was on the phone with that mutual friend, and then she asked to talk to me, and we exchanged numbers. She told me to call her later. Of course, I was nervous. She ended up calling me later on, and we've been talking now for over a year, been consistent with keeping up with each other and just rebuilding our bond.
Yeah. Yet again, the name of the film entitled Hood to Hollywood. You can check it out as of today on Tubi. I got to ask, the biggest takeaway for you, meaning after it's all said and done, what is it about this film and this sit down with Angela White, or Black China as we like to call her? What is it that you will take away?
The biggest thing that I took away, and that I also want everyone else to take away from it, is that you can get past certain things. This for me is closure. I needed this for myself, personally, for personal growth. It's hard to move on to another chapter in your life when the door is still open on the last. So I was able to close this chapter and get the healing that I needed to know who I was. So this not only is closure within me and her, but so that the world can see also who I am, because I was displayed incorrectly on that show. And I am happy for the world to see exactly who I really am.
Well, I want you to expand on that. And I think you're making reference to your personal evolution. I mean, a mom, a nurse, an actress, a rising entertainer as well, all things that perhaps were overlooked early on.
Yes. I've actually always been in the entertainment industry. I have been acting for well over 12 years professionally. I have done web series. I, of course, started out, like I said, I was an entertainer. I did music videos, magazines, all of that. But once I got pregnant with my daughter back in 2016, I wanted to change my life. I wanted to do something different. I got more into health and wellness. I became a wellness advocate. I became a certified life coach. And I just really wanted to start doing more for women and healing. I ended up opening up a business, a wellness business, and I just took off from there. Through COVID, I ended up branching off, getting me a spa bus. So I'm very into women's wellness. I call myself the yoniologist. I want to educate women on alternative ways to heal from within, and just keep that going. Just keep that good energy going. I just want to share it and spread it throughout the world.
Wow. Well, congratulations on mending that relationship with a friend. I'm at a loss for words because I'm thinking about the time perhaps where I too lost contact with a friend, and so I got to ask. When you all spoke, was it just like old times? It never went away, right? That friendship was still there to the extent that you remember it?
It was for me, I was nervous at first, but for her, and she says it in the film, I want everybody to please go and check it out on Tubi. She expresses nothing changed. The love was absolutely still there. When I got around her, it was like the scent was the same. You know someone's scent, and it did. It felt very normal. It felt very comfortable. And once we really, because this was the first time with us really hanging out with, seeing each other in 5 years. So that's a very long time not to see somebody whom you were literally living with almost. Every day we were together, and that was for almost 15 years. So it was just a very, it was something that needed to be done, and it feels very regular now.
Yeah.
Very regular.
I've said it time and time again. I think there's so much negativity surrounding reality TV, and I'm so glad you were able to bring some positivity to it in a major way. Yet again, the film is entitled Hood to Hollywood. Trezor Thompson, sit down with the one and only Angela White, also known as Black China. I truly appreciate this, Trezor. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Congratulations. I can't wait to get off so I can check it out later on tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. All right, folks, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Hey, the countdown is on, and soon and pretty soon, many of us will be saying, Happy New Year. But as the new year approaches, many people are rethinking what they want next. Not just resolutions, but real clarity. That's where my next guest comes into play. I'm referring to Mr. Matt Ross. He's an entrepreneur, author, former media executive with, count 'em, 30 years of building businesses that spark passion and creativity. Oh, by the way, he now shares his insights in his upcoming book, Grow Old or Fold, Transform Yourself in Midlife and Beyond. He now joins us right here on the Live Zone. Matt, good to see you, my friend, and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Really excited to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, but of course. So unlike, let's say, the typical new year, new you, all right, Matt, that's really me. I've done it time and time again. Your advice with regard to MVP 10 gives people a practical, structured way to design the next 10 years of life and or career. Do tell.
Well, think about this. We all put so much pressure on ourselves to have change happen immediately, right? Like, I'm not happy with something now. And if I'm not at a better place in a month, a week, 3 months, I quit or I give up. And I think what happens is just like in business, we need logical, practical sort of goals that give us the right amount of time to get to that place. So what we might have is we might have really short-term things that we're working on today, like literally I have to fix my budgeting for next year, right? But where do you want to be in 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years? And so the idea that I had when I was writing this book, because I was working on myself, I was in a tremendously difficult place, was I couldn't get it all done right away. So if I had this idea that I would chip away at it, what did I want my life to really look like, though, in 10 years? And what a novel idea, right? Because why can't we do that? Why can't we look down the road and really express what our dream life would look like? I know it sounds corny, but at least if we understand that, somewhere between where I am and that place is a much better place than where I am today. So that's what I basically created through this MVP 10 goals for 10 years, some now, some medium term, and some long term.
2 words that are in the title of the actual name of the book, or what you have titled it, rather, happen to be transform yourself. And I absolutely love that, because yet again, I think it's so hard, and I can speak for myself, to say, you know what, I have a lot of work to do, and ultimately, I would like to transform myself. You identify that, sir. Yeah, so it started from a real personal place. Let me just quickly tell you what I was going through. I had, at 50 years old, the big 50H, okay? I was there, and my life was in free fall. Tell you what was going on. 4 parents dying, health issues, 2 brothers lost to addiction, 1 homeless and 1 suicidal. And I had a son with autism who had a psychiatric breakdown. And I was out of a job. I built this company called the School of Rock, sold it to a private equity firm. They did what they do. They replaced me. So I was in my basement one night and said, just like people from Queens, New York do, are you going to fold, you loser? And I started pounding on myself, and I'm like, no, are you going to grow? So that was like the mantra that I had in my head that I didn't tell anyone. No one knew what I was going through. Like, we all keep most of our things inside, the trauma that I was dealing with. But this idea of grow or fold, how do I transform myself in my midlife to get to a better future state as I grow older? I leave the club next year. I'm 65 next year. Midlife is 40 to 65. And I just really thought it would be really incredible if I just sort of took a step back and slowed everything down, worked on myself, worked on my life personally, professionally, tried to figure out some sense of purpose. Wow. What an amazing story. And thank you for sharing that, sir. I'm pretty sure our viewers can have a better understanding with regard to what they need to do in order to continue to advance. And a part of that happens to be, which I absolutely love, treat yourself like a business. I never thought about that. So I had a therapist one day who had this great idea. He said to me, here's what I recommend when you're really struggling and the thoughts are looping in your head and you don't know what to do. Why don't you think about yourself sitting across the room, looking down on a conversation that 2 people are having. That conversation is you with yourself. And what would you tell that person to do? And what it sort of gave me the license to do was to sort of step outside myself and be unemotional. Because if you think about it, it's really hard to challenge yourself, to be vulnerable, to say, I stink at these things, I'm really good at things, I need help in these areas. So for me, it was always something I had a knack for in business, but not in my own life.
And that's because I'm woven to be intense about my personal beliefs and feelings, like most of us. So I said, let me treat myself like a business. Let me start off with a holistic inventory. I thought of my life as a three-legged stool, that all the legs were broken: personal, professional, and purpose. And if I could identify what was really broken, then I could build a plan to try and fix that, and a plan to sort of fix some of the personal things I was dealing with emotionally as well. So that's kind of how that idea of treat yourself like a business, and given the fact that I was a good strategist and good at building businesses, I treated myself like I was a consultant to myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Gosh, I absolutely love this. I'm so glad I've had the opportunity to chit-chat with you. Before we go, I'm going to tell you now, I'm purchasing the book. And so as soon as that happens, I plan to, I have someone in mind that I want to give it to. And I'm saying all this to say, I know that person, and they probably won't crack that book open until, I don't know, maybe May or June. But I know we're saying new year, new you. But I want folks to also know that, hey, you could open this book at any time and still reap the benefits, correct?
I think that's right. And the book's really in four sections. First part tells my backstory, how I got to where I was at 50. Then the second part is about working, building a plan for yourself and how to do it. The third part is how to identify the growth areas, what I call pure growth, functional, emotional, and creative growth, which I think is the X factor as we age, to keep your mind fluid. And then the fourth part takes you back to my story. So if you don't want to go in and do this heavy duty work on yourself, just learn a little bit about the journey that this guy went through, growing up in Queens, struggling through the, trying to figure it out, and how he continued to grind away to get to a better place. And then maybe a couple switches will go off when you're ready to work on yourself. So I think sometimes we all try to bite too big a chunk out of this, and then it gets overwhelming. The book goes back in the drawer. Don't look at it that way. Take little learnings along the way and dig in when you're sort of motivated to do so.
Absolutely love it. Yet again, the name of the book entitled Grow or Fold, I should say, Transform Yourself in Midlife and Beyond. The author, this gentleman right here, the one and only Mr. Matt Ross. I truly enjoyed this, Mr. Ross. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Appreciate your help.
All right, folks, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. It is now 1:30. Yes, the bottom of the hour. Time for a little celebrity dish with our friend, your friend. You get a chance to check her out on WPGC Midday Shenanigans. Plenty of shenanigans today. Poet Taylor now joins us right here on the LZ. Hello, my friend. Happy Wednesday.
Oh, happy Wednesday, Guy. Don't you look like a bag of money? How you doing?
Poet, you get me every time. And by the way, you look amazing as well. And I guess because you're in a different building, I can say that, and that gets into HR. So I guess we're both
Not
okay.
at all.
Hey, Poet, a couple of things real quick. I don't know if you just saw it because I know you're on the air and you got a lot of important things happening over there at WPGC, but I just had an exclusive interview with Treasure. Of course, she just released the film Hood to Hollywood. It surrounds all things with regard to her making up with Blac Chyna. I got to tell you, it was somewhat riveting. And one of the things that she said, Poet, is that it was as if they never left, meaning it was her smell. It was some of the things that she would say. It was her body language that really reminded her that they were truly friends. And I'm curious, and I wanted to ask you, one, if you saw it, and if not, don't worry, we'll repost it. But two, did you ever have a friend that perhaps you had a falling out with and, well, the two of you all decide to reconcile?
First of all, Guy, I watch you in the studio because if I ain't watching you, what am I doing? It was awesome, and I feel like the more we see folks that are on these pedestals of celebrity, showing how human they are, willing to be responsible for their actions and behaviors and bring it back, we love to see it. And we all have friends like that. Mine is called Farrah Sproul. She also owns Pinky Sweet Creations, shameless plug. We've been friends for over 30 years. We have had falling outs where we did not speak for months. And then we picked up, we apologized, kind of dug into why, and then moved on. And it's all about knowing your people better. Like, if you got friends and y'all ain't ever butted heads, then y'all ain't really learning and growing with each other. And I'm not sure that's the kind of friendship I would want anyway. So kudos to her, this film, and possibly inspiring some other people to, rebuild some bridges that have been burned.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Well said, Poet. I absolutely love them. All right, let's move on to one of the other big celebrity stories of the day. In this case, remember the guy who made headlines for rushing Ariana Grande on the wicked red carpet? You remember him. Who could forget him? Well, he tried it again, this time at a Lady Gaga concert in Australia. Johnson Wynn, who goes by the name of Pajama Man, didn't succeed. He was booted by security before Gaga even took to the stage. Fans say he was in a disguise and, well, he confirmed his removal on Instagram later on. Australia, by the way, is his home country, and he was deported there after spending 9 days in jail for the wicked incident. Poet, what in the heck is wrong with this guy?
I blame y'all for making stupid people famous. Y'all done told them that we gonna give you the likes and views for doing stupid things, and they keep being rewarded. Now, the other part of this is what happens when all of those that people stand for be like, I ain't coming outside. I'm not doing any fan meet and greets, because since some of y'all can't handle yourselves and y'all ain't been properly raised, we not messing with nobody. That's the thing that I see coming down the pipeline. People throwing stuff at concerts, rushing people on red carpets. At the end of the day, everybody, no matter the title of what they do, from Ariana to me to you, human and have human emotions. So I feel like we have got to figure out how to stop people from wanting to do the most just for a little bit of fame.
Yeah.
Just for 50 seconds or something, because that's all this is. Imagine if nobody would have talked about him rushing Ariana Grande. Like, we ignored it, didn't mention his name, didn't tell you his IG or whatever, none of that. He just went to jail and we kept moving. You think he would have tried it again? Absolutely not. But he got so much from doing something so stupid. Look at us now.
Yeah. Yet again, just that behavior is just not acceptable in any way, form, or fashion. And to your point, if we fund that and or support that, it shows that we too are probably not in a good position to be saying anything. So I applaud you on that comment, Poet. Just give it up, guys. It's not the cool thing to do. Leave this guy alone. Let him become a has-been, and let's just all enjoy our lives without him.
Yes.
Amen to that.
Absolutely.
Let's move on to things between Euphoria stars Zendaya and Sydney Sweeney. Well, apparently, we talked about that friend thing earlier, Poet. Not the case with them. It has now hit an all-time low. The rumored feud continues to deepen, with sources saying the two actresses can no longer be in the same room with one another. According to reports, tensions are so high that the two had to be separated during filming of Euphoria Season 3. Rumors of a rift began last month over opposing political views. I could understand one person stands on one side of the aisle and perhaps someone stands on the other, but for me not to even have a conversation with you, Poet, I don't know about that one.
I mean, we're looking in a day and age where people are showing you who they are and you gotta believe them. We know what happened a couple days ago, and Sydney Sweeney had opportunities to say some things. She stood 10 toes down on how she felt. Now Zendaya is standing 10 toes down. And I think what we can learn from that is we are going to disagree with people. We're not always going to agree on the same things, But are you willing for it to cost you your bag and your job? Now, see, that's where checking your ego and being responsible for self comes into play. So I ain't gonna do nothing that's gonna hurt my money. But when you show me who you are, I'm gonna believe you and I'm gonna treat you as such.
Yeah.
So as long as you don't put hands, don't do no spitting, we gonna be good. We got enough technology now. Put the green screen and I can act like Sydney right here.
Well, hey, Poet, remember that time you and I got in a riff and you said I can no longer be in the room with you? Well, quite honestly, it was probably the other way around. But that's why I absolutely love you, because you are truly one of a kind and truly a genuine and a good person. You always take the high road, I should say. Hey, real quick, speaking of taking the high road, you're giving back in a major way, Poet. What's on the docket, if you will?
Oh, man, tonight, taking over the Vince DC Club Room at Audi Field with Us Helping Us. We are doing their Passion for Living Gala tonight, and we will also be supporting what you just showed, Bits of Joy and Toys, which is happening December 1st. We're going to serve 500 kiddos. And finally, the volunteer links are up. So you can go to marthastable.org for Wrapping Toys December 20th. Join me. And then you can join the actual giveaway and be a part of it. marthastable.org. We can't serve the village without some extra hands. I'd like to say I can do it alone, and I am a superwoman. But when the village comes together, I like that kind of magic. So I'm excited about tonight, raising funds for Us Helping Us, who has everything from a clothing closet to a pantry, washer and dryer if you need it, and all the resources you need for sexual and mental health. And, of course, pouring into the village with Bits of Joy and Toy. I love love. And I know when we lead with love and give grace, magical things happen. So thank you for loving me enough to have me every week with you, God. It means a lot.
Well, the viewers love you, and so do I. Yet again, Poet Tiller, WPGC Midday Shenanigans, joining us right here on the live zone. I appreciate you, Poet. All right, guys.
I appreciate you, funny bags.
We'll take a quick break. Hey, on the flip side of that break, Emmy Award-winning journalist and actor Uvalde David joins us next, right here on the Live Zone. All right, folks, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone, I have been waiting all day long to conduct this interview. Why? Because, well, this guy is truly the man, as they say. I'm making reference to Mr. Uvalde David. You see, he is an internationally recognized Emmy Award-winning journalist, filmmaker, actor. Oh, by the way, as one recently put it, Uvalde brings a unique perspective to the most pressing issues in American culture, politics, and global affairs. He now joins us right here on the Live Zone. Uvalde, good to see you, and welcome to the show.
It's always good to see you. I appreciate the way you communicate, not just with such brilliance, but with clarity, which I think is so very needed. So when I get to speak to people like you, You make me breathe a little bit deeper. We're in a challenging time here in our country, and people who can have the conversations need to be front-facing, and that's exactly who you are and what you do.
Well, I thank you for stating all things that I have done, but I really want to focus on what you have done, because you have literally, as I like to say, changed the world, one person at a time. How? Well, a lot of your work has really centered on combating anti-Semitism and analyzing, let's say, defending democratic values and speaking to the rise of the center of American culture about politics and all things partisan extremes. Do tell, sir.
Well, I mean, we are seeing a lot of changes within our society. The rise of the disaffected center is something I've been describing it as lately, where there are millions of Americans who are disillusioned with both parties. There's a rejection of ideological extremes on culture, identity, and governance. And this new political tribe, dare I call it, that the center-right, center-left are finding a coalition. And I speak as somebody who used to refer to myself as politically homeless. I've been a lifelong progressive Democrat liberal. I was very involved in the woke movement, and my values never changed. But I feel like I was standing on a football field, and the whole football field shifted, and all of a sudden I found myself in a different camp or on a different side. I am no longer part of the progressive movement. I'm no longer part of the woke movement, and I'm no longer a Democrat, because I started to see too many things that were against the values of the movements and the parties that I was part of. So we're seeing a lot of people facing the same thing. What I'm talking about isn't unique. So it's an important time to identify the values that are important to us. And we're seeing this rise of the centrists who are speaking up and saying, this is who we are and where we are.
Yeah. Real quick, Yuval, and I don't want to go off on a tangent here. I have said this time and time again, and I guess it's the way it is, and that is the two-party system. It's just so hard for me to figure out. I like more than Coke and Pepsi. And so apparently so do you. But I guess one just has to understand that's how it is and accept that and decide to move on if one, let's say, the Coke and or Pepsi isn't for you. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And I think that is something that is so wonderful about being American and being a citizen, not just of a democracy, but of a constitutional republic, where we are able to have our opinions and we're able to change parties freely at will. That is something that is so very important to maintain, but we're seeing people who express a moral superiority, where they say that their way is correct and anybody who disagrees is evil or wrong. That is evil and wrong. We should be able to have the debates. Everybody's supposed to have a seat at the table, as long as you're not trying to kill or erase or censor somebody at the table. I'm a free speech activist, but even freedom of speech has limitations. It cannot go into violent rhetoric, where we're seeing that a lot now, where I face it myself, where people want to kill me because of my beliefs and my speaking out. That is anti-American. We are all supposed to be able to have these debates, because you know what? Maybe we'll learn something. Maybe we'll change our minds. Maybe somebody will change our minds, or maybe we will change somebody else's opinion. That is what our country is based on and our political system is based on.
Well said. You made mention of free speech, and one of the things that you have truly focused on with free speech happens to be combating anti-Semitism. This is something, quite honestly, that we talk about on a weekly basis. Why? Because it's gotten out of hand.
The anti-Semitism keeps increasing. The surge of anti-Semitism in America is reflecting the surge of anti-Semitism across the world. In fact, I oftentimes refer to it as a pandemic of anti-Jewish hatred. We're seeing a nationwide spike in anti-Semitic incidents, which are physical attacks, harassment, campus hostility, which we've seen at some of our most elite universities across this country, demonstrations, protests, riots, and vandalism outside of synagogues, Jewish day schools, Jewish-owned businesses, Jews who walk around like I do with Magen David, a Jewish Star of David around our necks, are oftentimes harassed. It's happened to me on the streets of Washington, D.C. It's happened to me in New York City, where I lived for most of my adult life. it's a horrendous thing, and that is something that more people in our country need to speak out against. It is not excusable to attack Jews. There is no political justification to target Jews. And what people are saying right now is they're using the terms anti-Zionism or anti-Israel as a justification to attack Jews. Well, you know what? I don't see people going after Nigerians because they hate what Boko Haram is doing, kidnapping young girls in northern Nigeria. I don't see Palestinian people being attacked across the world because of Hamas. I don't see Chinese people being attacked because of policies of the Chinese government. So whether somebody uses Israel as a justification to attack Jews, or they're just significantly attacking Jews because we're Jews, all of that is wrong.
Yeah. Yuval, it's no secret. You are an Emmy award-winning journalist. You're a filmmaker. You're an actor. And many would argue there's so much more limelight within that realm, if you will. Let's say we see you on the next movie. But you have decided not only to focus on that, but to take a different approach as well. And that is to really fight for all things human rights. I think you need to be commended for that, sir.
Well, I appreciate that. Whenever somebody thanks me or tries to commend me for what I do, I always say the same line is, don't thank me, join me. I started to be involved as a socio-political activist and advocate a long time ago because it's my civic duty as an American, as a child of immigrants. I'm a first-generation American, and that brings so much pride for me, because not only do I represent America, but I represent a lot of different people who are first generation American, who are children of immigrants, who worked hard to build the life that I have. And I think that every American needs to do their part, not just for themselves, their people, their communities, but for our nation as a whole. So when people are ignoring and dismissing the anti-Semitism that's going on, that is anti-American. When a certain group is being targeted and attacked for their identity, everybody else needs to rise up. That's why we often refer to as the hatred of Jewish people, or anti-Semitism being the canary in the coal mine, showing that worse things are yet to come. And I am very short-term pessimistic, but the truth is I'm long-term optimistic, because people like you, people like me, and so many others are rising up and trying to ensure the safety for all Americans.
Yet again, Mr. Yuval David joining us right here on the Live Zone. I truly appreciate your time, my friend.
Thank you for having me on.
And everybody says, what is the problem? It's the middleman in the middle of this that's actually controlling the formulary, controlling a lot of the pricing, and that completely hides the cost of everything on it. It's destroying, the pharmacy benefit managers are destroying our independent pharmacies in our rural areas all around the country as they continue to make more and more profits on Wall Street. We've got to say, we're not trying to destroy you, but you've got to stop destroying our independent pharmacies around the country, and you've got to actually be more transparent in the process on this. We have a bill that is a bipartisan bill that has come out of the Finance Committee that we have unanimous support for. Tell me how often that happens in this body, that we can't seem to get to the floor. We should be able to agree that if someone is trying to dramatically jack up the cost of pharmaceuticals on our individual constituents and in the families in our neighborhood in destroying our independent pharmacies, we should all be able to agree that's anti-competitive, and that's got to stop. We should be able to do that. Listen, we've already passed this last July a $50 billion amount going to rural hospitals to be able to stabilize those rural hospitals. We've already engaged in ways to be able to stabilize Medicaid long-term, to be able to make sure that.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not like an anchor guy making a lot of money. Okay, let's do weather. Yeah, you know, the weather people are always coming up the rear. 37, winds out south at 18. So, Guy, the deal with today, a lot of cloud cover. You can see it across the region. That's Fredericksburg. And what you see is what you get this afternoon. So we'll have a lot of clouds, maybe a shower or two.
Okay.
You ready for this? I was debating with Marissa earlier today on the set about whether or not today's probably your pick of the week.
What?
Yeah, cloud cover in mid-40s. So that's
still
about
cold.
as good as it's going to get. As we are going to be back into a rather polar plunge kind of weekend here, especially by Sunday and Monday. Okay, there's cloud cover. Most of that rain out to the west is not touching the ground, but we'll see a few showers later this afternoon. We're not talking about anything major, but if you catch a shower, don't be shocked. Mostly north of our region. I know it looks a little ominous out to the west, but most of that will fall apart before it gets across the mountains. I do want to mention one area. If you are traveling out into our mountains out to the west, especially those higher elevations in western Maryland and West Virginia, there's a blizzard warning for later today. So there could be some heavy snows out there. For us, we'll just keep it cloudy and chilly with daytime highs in the mid-40s. But did you know that today is 15th day in a row where the temperatures have been below normal?
Wow.
Yeah, there's your fun. How's that for a fun fact?
Yeah, I sound like I'm a smart guy if I say
or
it.
just a fact. Okay, cold front comes through, and guess what? We're back to windy and chilly conditions tomorrow, only about 40, but the sun will return tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, so as far as snow chances this week, maybe Friday a few flurries. If we had more than anything that was more than conversational, like, oh, I saw a flurry. I need to tell Guy and Tucker. I'd be shocked. Sunday morning has a little better chance of a light accumulation. It would mostly be right around daybreak, and it's not set in stone. But maybe we could get an inch or two. We'll have to watch that one.
All right.
Okay, but notice it's cold into next week.
Yeah.
You know what this means, don't you?
What is that?
Christmas will be like 75 because it can't be cold like this forever.
I thought maybe we'd get a white Christmas.
Well, we'll see. I mean, we're getting close.
That means you have to continue to watch Tucker Barnes.
I'm going to go change my socks. I'm out.
Tucker Barnes, all things weather and lack of socks right here. Hey, guys, if you haven't already done so, make sure you download the Fox Local app and take that forecast with you on the go.
And how about this? We've been debating this in the newsroom all day today, or I guess more just reacting. What would you do if dining out at a restaurant and a server takes your plate of food mid-bite? This is a prank that's been all over Instagram and TikTok. Guy, are you throwing hands, or are you just too shocked to do anything?
Okay, so I gotta, first of all, is everybody in on it? Meaning, so let's say you and I go out to grab a bite.
Yeah.
Are you in on it and I'm not, or no one knows?
Yes, the victim is not in on it, but it does take some choreography. You need to get the waiter in on it. So watch this. Oh man, I think I know this one. This lady got really mad. Look at that.
What's going on here?
That girl is one of the only ones I've seen who actually reached for it as the waiter's coming. I feel I would be like, oh, it must have been poisoned.
Oh.
I'm not arguing with the waiter in that situation, but how about you?
The funny part about the young lady, she had her phone out, and what is it? With the phone eats first? Is that how it is now?
The phone eats first.
So take her food away because I cannot stand when those I'm dining with do that. No, we eat first. So one of the many talkers we're following for you right here on the Live Zone. What's the other one you have, my man?
All right, here we go. The naughty list is actually real. So every Christmas, there's a naughty list. All right, every Christmas for 35 seasons, Charles Edward Hall has played Old St. Nick at Radio City Music Hall. I have a picture of him right here. He's only actually had to put a child on the naughty list once. He was misbehaving so bad, he said, that kid's not getting an iPhone for Christmas. But turns out, putting the kid on his lap and saying that you're not getting an iPhone for Christmas because you're on the naughty list, it worked. A month later, the child's grandfather gave an update to the guy playing Santa, saying that he's never been more well-behaved. It's a changed kid.
Well, that's what Santa Claus would do to you. And you know what? I don't think it's Santa Claus. I think it's what Santa Claus does. It's giving you gifts, which makes you, make sure you're up to par and good to go. Don't get any coal. Who wants coal for Christmas?
Right. If there's no threat of a naughty list, then the good list is not as impactful. It doesn't work if there is no other side. It's like a heaven and hell, kind of a dynamic kind of there.
This all reminds me of the Christmas Story, where the little kid sits on Santa's lap, and then he's about to tell him he wants the Red Ryder BB gun, and it doesn't get the chance to do so, and he has to slide down the slide.
Yeah, and he said, you're going to put your eye out with that kid. I love that movie.
Oh, well, one thing's for sure, you won't punch your eye out watching us. We do it each and every Monday through Friday, 12 to 2. Tell a friend, bring a friend, and we'd love to do it again with you. On behalf of producer Joey, I'm Guy Lambert. Thank you so much for watching. Back here tomorrow at 12, The Take coming up next, right here on Fox 5.